Birgitta, welcome to the Tourism Matters podcast. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, on this fine Wednesday morning. I'm going to kick straight into things. Just before we get into this conversation, I've got a couple of quick get-to-know-you questions so me and my listeners are a little bit more familiar with who Birgitta March is. So tell me, when you're traveling on the plane, aisle seat, window seat, or middle seat?
Definitely window seat, girl.
Ah, are you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't mind. I don't mind asking people to move. Yeah, to move over so I can go to the bathroom or something.
Yeah?
I just love the window and looking out.
You You are my very, very first guest that said that. Everyone is like, oh no, God, I just feel too uncomfortable asking people to move. So I just go with the aisle, but you've got no problem. That's great.
No, because it's just so amazing flying over the Middle East or
Yeah.
flying over
Mm,
Australia. Well, not over the Middle
mm.
East now, obviously, but or flying over Australia and just seeing those amazing landscapes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I must agree. Um, all right. And when you are on holiday and you're at your hotel buffet breakfast,
Mhm.
what's going on Birgitta's plate? What are we, what are we
I
headed for?
love fresh tropical fruits.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. If I could start off with that and just put myself in the space, just it connects me to wherever I am straight away. I love it.
Yeah, I must agree actually, tropical fruit. And it's not the same if you try and do it at home and cut it up yourself
No,
as something.
juicier, it's sweeter. We just came back from a family holiday in French Polynesia. And
Wow.
just the fruits down there are so beautiful. The mangoes, it could even be an avocado. So they have equally a lot of avocados. I'm even happy to have that for breakfast, but something
Oh yeah.
local that connects me to that space is for me, it's the best way to start my day.
All right. Well, that's a good healthy way to start your day.
Mm,
Yeah.
food.
All right. So thank you very much. We're going to go back to young Birgitta. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Belgium, in the Flemish part. The province is like West Flanders, and I grew up. uh, I was born outside of Bruges and then moved into Bruges, which is a very big tourism fairy tale town, but it was a really good
Yeah.
town to grow up with the cobblestones and just the little markets and the little stores and the little,
Uh,
yeah, I loved it. I really loved it. It was a
did
very
you?
safe, it was not very multicultural. And I didn't
Mm,
really realize that when I was growing up. It was very Flemish. I think it's maybe too expensive for immigrants to move to, but it felt just, yeah, very cozy. Everything was small and cozy, and I loved it.
uh,
Really
yeah,
loved.
I spent a week or so in Belgium, maybe
Do you
15
love
years
it?
ago. And yes, I did. I ate an
Okay.
awful lot of waffles and an awful lot of chocolate.
I know I have straight teeth, but I have very bad teeth because I grew up eating chocolate for breakfast. Not good. It's not good for
You've
us.
evolved to fruit now.
Have. But no,
Oh, wow.
it's a lovely historical place. Didn't know anything
Yeah.
about it, but it was a great place to grow up in.
Yeah. Did you travel much when you were growing up?
No, not really. I had when we would go maybe across the border into France, or we might go to Luxembourg because that's, everything is just so close. I went into Switzerland once, and then I really didn't travel till I finished uni.
Mm.
I didn't travel outside of Europe, and yeah, till then.
Yeah.
Been to Spain, I've been to Germany and places like that, but yeah, I had never been on an airplane till I
Mm.
finished.
Ah, okay. Right. So you finished high school and then did you go straight to university from school?
Yeah, yeah, very
Yeah.
Flemish
Um,
way. You've got to go and do some serious education. So, my parents kind of steered me into business interpreting because I was good with languages, and they were probably right. I did love the course. I was very much wanting to go into travel, and my parents like, no, you need something solid behind you, and they steered me into that, and I really really enjoyed it. Um,
mm, um,
lots of languages every day.
wow. So did you do languages in high school?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I started
Okay.
off with, economics. Bad move. My parents, put me into a boarding school for 6 years, and they put me into economics and Latin, and I was not liking it. And so after 2 years, I'm asked to change. I had to wait 3 years, and then they said, "No, no, no, now you can go into modern languages," which was like French, so I could get rid of the Latin, and I could go into French, German, English, and so that to
Oh,
me was, like, so much more fun, and, I
yeah.
was into repetition of my Latin words every day, and
Mm,
economics was just, like, way beyond me at 12 years old, so
yeah.
it
Yeah.
was it was definitely my parents' choice and not really what matched my skill set very well. But
Okay.
once I got into languages, I really started, really liking the like, when you learn languages in Belgium, you learn it differently to an Australian system where you really learn about the politics, the social context, the everything, the whole country.
Right.
Then the language is like an addition to or the vocab
Ah.
is an addition to your language, course. So, makes it really, really interesting because by the
Mm.
time you go to a country, you go, "Oh, yeah, I know who the Tories are," or, "I know this in Germany," or so I really, really enjoyed, that, and I made lifelong friends in boarding school. It was really good.
Oh, great. Um, you mentioned there that you wanted to study travel.
Mm.
Why did you wanna
Yeah,
do that?
I just wanted to, however much I loved living in Bruges, I also really wanted to travel and explore the world because one of my friends in boarding school, had a family who was very well off, and they would go to the Bahamas, and I'll sit there you know, with my old atlas and go, "Where is the Bahamas? Where's Key West? Where's all this?" And it just, for me, it just opened up a world that I just went, "Oh, I've got to go there one day." And so I said to my parents, "I want to go. I want to work. I want to work on an airline, or I want to do something." And they're like, "No, not serious enough," because this is a long time ago. This is like we're talking 1988. But this is a long time, very different. Tourism really wasn't a big, you didn't do a degree in tourism then. It's definitely not in Belgium. And so, and look, I don't regret what they kind of gently steered me into, but, yeah, that's the reason why I didn't do it.
Okay, so business interpreting. So
Mm.
that's three years?
Yeah, where you
Yeah.
literally sit in, you have all your little cabins, and it's about the complete opposite of what I do in tourism. It's about you're closed off, you have your door closed, and you do ad hoc or simultaneous interpreting. And so you have your headphones on all the time, and you just do it simultaneously, or you wait for a couple of minutes and then you interpret. And so I did 40 hours a week, and every 10 hours we did another language. So I did Dutch because in Belgium we speak Flemish, but that's not written. So I did Dutch, French, German, English. So every day, and I loved it. I really loved it. It's just it
So when you say you're sitting with headphones on, what are you listening to? Are you typing?
no,
What do you no.
you just listen to somebody talking to you in a certain language, and they'll say, "Okay, now we're in whatever English." You now interpret from Dutch into English, and so you constantly do it whichever way you have to do simultaneously, which is as they speak, you interpret, or you wait a couple of minutes and then you do it, and you kind of get more
And
synopsis.
are these people having meetings? Like, why what are you
No, you're training to go into, conference center, or you're training to go into, if you're lucky to go into the UN, or, you're training to be in a professional setting and sitting
Okay.
in a booth somewhere and being the official interpreter. Or you could go on
Okay, great.
delegations with people and kind of interpret for them. And in fact, I've done that a lot in my tourism career later on. So it was actually really beneficial.
Yeah, this is an interesting little avenue, I think, here because, I mean, yeah, interpreting, yeah, that's definitely a niche in the tourism industry, or maybe not even a niche. Yeah, okay, we'll
No,
have to
we
dig into that. Yeah.
really, have a big need for, language guides. We're such a monolingual country. But yet we have such a diversity of people who could really help out in tourism. And if you have grown up speaking it, writing it, and then, working in tourism and using your language, people love it because they can communicate with you on, quite a high level. But also you have the ability to talk to the different stakeholders you're dealing with. So if you're with a bus driver or a hotel, or so you can speak the language of the land, but you can speak the language of your visitors as well. So I've always loved that part of my
Yeah,
tourism.
this is very fascinating. Um, all right, so you finish studying,
Hmm.
and then what happens after that?
Then my parents kind of said, okay, if you still want to work in tourism, why don't you go to Germany and go and work in a hotel? So I went down to Germany and I did what they call a Sprachenpraktikum, which is like a language apprenticeship. So you kind of improve your language for that industry. And for me, it was really interesting. Like the whole system they have in Germany is really good. Like you start as a roommate and you go work in the kitchen, and then you go all the different departments. In the 6 month, you're at the front desk. So if a visitor comes with a certain complaint, you actually understand it because you've gone through all the departments. Except for I was in Schwarzwald, Black Forest, and it was so cold. And the food was not something I like. It was like very heavy, stodgy foods. And so I couldn't wait for it to end because I had decided that hotels weren't for me, which
Okay.
was really good. It
Yeah.
opened my world to, I thought I wanted to work in tourism, but really this is very different to what I had imagined. So it's kind of, I didn't look at that option later on, didn't want to work in hotels. However good the experience was, and I learned a lot
Mm.
in dealing with people and dealing with different departments, and it was really good. But it made me realize that, yeah, it just wasn't for me. And so then
Yeah.
I went back to Belgium, and then by accident, actually, when I had already finished, the Americans came to Belgium asking for multilingual people. So they went to university where I had been, and somebody saw it and said, "Hey, Birgitta, this is right down your alley. Do you want to go and work in America as a tour guide?" And I said, "Yeah, if they pay me, of course I will." And I didn't really knew what it entailed because I'd never really worked, or I'd never studied tourism at all. And so, yeah, I went through quite a rigorous process. The Americans put you through 3 tests to get there. So you have to do like personality tests and like, are you serious about wanting to work there because they sponsor you? And then you go through a language ability test. If you say speak this language, then speak it with us for a couple of, 20 minutes or something. And then they send you off for a couple of weeks and they say, okay, now study the material that you will be needing. And then they'll do a test. So that's how I got to New York. My
Wow.
first real job was working with the people of the Concorde. Remember the supersonic airplanes?
Yeah.
And it was really good for me, and the QE2. So we had 2 big clients. We had Concorde and QE2 Queen Elizabeth II. And they were really your high end, what we call discerning clients. And so that was like the best learning curve for me. If you know how to deal with that clientele, you could deal with
Yeah.
a lot of different clients. So the bar was really high straight away. America is really good in training people.
Mm.
Their internal inductions are really, really thorough. So that was my first 8 months. And I love New York, coming out of a sheltered kind of little Bruges, and then you go into this massive metropolitan city. And they gave us a city apartment and they looked after us for transport. And so we just had the best time.
Oh my goodness.
But we had to speak 4 languages every day. It wasn't, I couldn't do any city tours because they have a special system where as a tour guide, you have to be accredited to that particular city. But I can give
Right.
tours from New York to Philly, for example, then from Philly to Washington, D.C. So it's a very different system to ours here.
Mm.
So I did that for 8 months and I thought, I'm ready for bigger tours, and then I went down to Florida and did more tours for 10 months. And
So, talk to me about being a tour guide, not only in a region that you're not from, but in a country that you're not from. How did you find that? You're not the first tour guide I've spoken to that's
yeah.
landed in a new city and started guiding tours. So, how did you find that within yourself, kind of feeling like a foreigner, but still being expected to be an expert? And I guess like the training obviously went a long way, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think for me, it worked in terms of having a really solid induction. So you would get, the Americans gave me, probably a mentor for the first couple of weeks where I was just shadowing people the whole time. And then they really force you to kind of read books and talk to people. And so that induction was really quite comprehensive. So I think it worked for me. But in hindsight, you are never as good as a local. Your ability to translate and be the interpreter is really what your strength is. But, what I knew as a 23, 24-year-old, I just didn't have the life experience of living there. A lot of things I would communicate with the driver and saying, okay, let's give this to the driver. Let's just ask the driver. I would say, let's get back to you tomorrow, and then go and talk to people and really find out. And so it was like accumulation of knowledge, and just build up and just remember what people ask. And there is kind of your stereotypical questions that people will ask you. Um, so that kind of, yeah, you have a bit of a folder there with all kind of knowledge and all kind of questions they may ask you, and then compare to other guides. But I think my
Mm,
training there was really good. That was,
mm.
yeah.
And Birgitta, would you have described yourself as an extrovert at this point in your life?
I never thought I did, but apparently I've always been a bit of a chatterbox. When I talk to my friends who remember me from boarding school, they go, "No, what are you talking about? You always were comfortable talking to people." So
Yeah. Okay.
maybe I was. Maybe I just envisaged myself being quieter than I was.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting because I do think that is a little bit of a misconception in that if you're going to work in the tourism industry, you need to have an extroverted
Yeah,
personality type. And I definitely think there are some roles in the industry that call and that having that personality type can be helpful. But I absolutely will die on the hill that there is a place for every personality type in the tourism industry. And I would go as far as to say, including tour guiding, because I think when you have um, the right training and belief in your own ability to deliver the knowledge, you still don't have to be a super outgoing and rah, rah, rah type of person to be an excellent tour guide and really connect with the guests. Would you agree with that?
100%. So for
Mm,
me, what it always is if I know my stuff, my knowledge, I have the knowledge behind me, I can stand in front of 200 people, which I've done, and be completely comfortable. But I will be really uncomfortable if I have to wing it in front of two, discerning clients, or I just don't like it. I can't fluff it, let's say. If I
yeah.
really don't know it, I'm not good at that. And I
Mm,
don't think that people deserve it, a visitor.
yeah.
I don't think they
Yeah.
deserve when they come somewhere. I think they was tend to think like, what would my parents like when they go somewhere? What kind of
Mm,
level of knowledge would, if they expect it? If they don't expect it, it's great. But if they
mm.
do expect it, kind of be ready for it.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. All right. So you head down to Florida
Yeah.
and sort of change things up a bit. And how much longer are you in the States for? How long do you
So
continue that?
a total of 18 months. And then
Wow.
I decided that 18 months was really good fun, but it wasn't my country. I just found it too parochial. The news, I found it too parochial. I just really didn't know anything outside of my state where I was living at the time, or sometimes just a village. And even as a 23-year-old, it was just really frustrating to me where I couldn't hear anything, what was happening around the world. And it was, yeah, I didn't like that aspect of America, or however beautiful some areas were and however a good time I had everywhere. it was just too limiting in that aspect.
Mm.
Because, growing up in Belgium, we have three languages in the country. So you pick up a cereal box and you have three languages on the cereal box. So you listen to the news, you could just flick it up to another language. And then I get to this country and it's just, oh, actually, I learned Spanish in America because I thought, this is a language I don't know. I better get a tutor. So, but other than that, I really didn't have any exposure to another language on a social level, and I didn't like that at all. So then I moved to Australia for something different because I met my husband whilst traveling. He wasn't a traveler, but I just met him traveling. I said, yeah, I'll come over for a holiday, and that was a long time ago now.
So he's Australian.
He's Australian.
Okay. And where
So
did you move to?
I moved to Melbourne. Yeah,
Melbourne.
always been in
Wow.
Melbourne. In the meantime, I have a brother who moved to Sydney, so I went and spent some time with him in Sydney.
Ah.
And Sydney, no one will say that, but Sydney reminded me of Florida, where I just moved from in terms of cockroaches. And I thought, no, I don't want to do this another another couple of months with cockroaches. Not happy. This is not my city. So that was enough for me to say, yeah, Melbourne sounds good.
Oh, that's so funny. I always love to, dive deep into, what causes transition and,
Yeah.
and our tourism careers. And cockroaches isn't one that I've come across yet.
And I think not many people would think of it. They would say like, oh, it'll be a spider or it'll be but here in Melbourne, there's actually no cockroach, like not those big cockroaches. You have garden roaches, or if you're really dirty, you might have a cockroach, but you don't actually have those ones. And in Florida, we had the house fumigated and they were just pest proportions. So when I got to Sydney, I went, I can't do this again. So,
So
no,
Sydney's
no,
off the
no.
card. So we're staying in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And what did you do when you got to Australia?
Yep. So I just thought, I basically opened a newspaper and it said multilingual guides needed. I went, that's easy. I'm not even looking for a job.
Wow.
So I got thrown into a camping tour, which was 31 days around Australia on a coach with 40 odd people speaking two languages. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. I didn't get any training. So no training. I had a tour. So I had a bus driver and his wife, who was the cook, who had not been told that they had to train me. So when I went on board, they just went, no, not paid for this. And I had two warring parties. So I had the old Dutch people and the old German people who were still thinking about Second World War. And here's Birgitta as a 24-year-old with absolutely no tourism training behind me, apart from what I had had in America. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I did not have the emotional intelligence to go, guys, just let's be adults about this. Let's just concentrate on Australia and the beauty of Australia and just get on with it. And I just suffered it in silence every day. And I thought, I'm never doing another camping tour again for work. And I haven't. I just never attempted another one. But I did love Australia. So I thought, no, this is good. I want to maybe keep on doing this for a little while whilst I really sort out what I was going to be doing. And so I did do a series actually, which was really interesting I started in Perth. There were 17-day tours with farmers and there were technical tours. And so we'll go around like to the Kimberley and we talk about, fruit growing and we talk about artificial insemination in New South Wales. And I was literally the translation. Again, I was the interpreter talking about things that I had never heard of. And it really gave me an incredible appreciation for the farmers in Australia who are just so in touch with nature, and the technology they use to read the weather and work through technology with the land it just opened my eyes to a whole new, area that I never even thought about. So I really, really loved those tours and I did those
That
for a couple of
that
years.
sounds like sort of the perfect storm for you right at that point in time. You know, there was no expectation for you to be an expert.
Right.
So you have this ability to interpret and then sort of see different parts of Australia and learn at the same time. Yeah, that
Yeah.
does sound very enjoyable.
It was lovely. It was really, and farmers are pretty easygoing. If something is 5 minutes late or it didn't really matter. But it was a really snappy kind of 17-day tour of Australia, and I just really saw the beauty of it all the time. But then I went into advertising for about 5 years.
That's a
Just
shift.
yeah,
Talk to me about that.
shift. But again, it was kind of my love for languages, and I thought, oh yeah, in advertising, I think I might like this because they play with languages, and I really like that deeper connection to the English. And look, I learned a lot of that in advertising. I learned a lot of different people skills, and so I did that for 5 years, and then I thought, no, the hours are, if anyone complains about hours in tourism, the hours in advertising are horrendous.
Right. So can I just double click on that? Why did you make that? Why didn't you continue tour guiding? Why did you decide to try? I know you just said about the language, but seems like
Yeah,
quite a big shift.
yeah, it was a big shift, but at the same time, I just always looked for things with languages, and it came across my desk, and I thought, yeah, let's give this a go.
Okay.
That might be a different career I'd never thought about. Yeah, I just, but again, I didn't see that as a long term. I think I got burned out after about 5 years of working some seriously big hours. I got burned
Right.
out. Yeah.
And
Um,
where are we now? Sort of mid-90s,
Yeah, it was probably late 90s where I
late
thought,
90s.
look, tour guiding actually sounds pretty pretty good hour-wise, and I feel like I don't wanna be locked up in an office,
Okay.
all day, every day, because as a good European, I don't like, air conditioning. And so I wanted to be back in the open,
Yeah.
and I love hiking and all that stuff. So I went back to tour guiding, but I also started discovering business events. And business events for me were kind of really a good avenue to use my languages, and it
Mhm.
was a little bit more oomphy, like I had a little bit more depth to it for me. And so I liked doing like technical tours with architects, or I did tours with, chocolatiers coming over from Europe, and we go from chocolate maker to chocolate maker, or we go
Right.
behind the scenes at Fed Square, or I did like economic delegations. I even had the King of Belgium coming over. I did like really interesting, like ministerial tours, and all I was literally, I was interpreter. So making
Interpreter.
sure, like sports people, I did sports tours where sports people would come here, and all I have to do is make sure that they're at the right time at the MCG, and then go and make sure that they're at the restaurant at a certain time, and then everything was organized, but I was just double checking that everything was there and being the interpreter. So I did a whole range of kind of those tours.
Wow. And so are these delegates typically like maybe traveling for a conference or something is that what you mean when you say business events? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Traveling for a conference or a technical tour, or yeah, economic
Mm.
delegations, that they have a Danish one over here now in Australia. So those kind of things, and just literally be the interpreter. It's really good.
Yeah, this is
That,
yeah, really
and
yeah,
that's
very
tourism.
interesting.
That's a lot of times people
Yeah.
don't think of that as tourism, but that's the really the beautiful thing about tourism being so vast, that you can move into an area where you really can use your skill set, and go to the level of depth that you want. Like, you could go on a city tour and know a lot about your city, but then you go on a technical tour and you learn about a discipline that you've never, really thought about. And then you go into farming tours, and then I learn about artificial insemination. And so it's just been such an interesting journey for me. It's been really good.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So how long were you doing that? Was that full time? You were sort of running those um tours or
Not full time, because in 2000 I had my first son. And then 2000, so then I really went and worked, when I wanted to work. And that's another advantage of tour guiding. Once you become a mum, you could really say, yeah, I could do this tour. Yeah, I could do this tour. So um, I had 3 children. And then I basically worked where I wanted to work. And we had like a French au pair in the house. And then I just would work with her. And that was really beautiful. So that's a really good advantage. If you still want to work, still get some pocket money in and still keep your brain ticking. Yeah, so I really worked that in. But simultaneously, then somebody asked me to go and work at TAFE. So then I thought, well, I don't actually have any qualification in TAFE. So I did my diploma in tourism. And I had to work at TAFE, I had to do Cert 4 in training and assessment. So I did that. And then I started working in TAFE simultaneously when I was tour guiding and training at TAFE. So that was a good combo. I really like that
So
combo.
working as a lecturer.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was really good because you can bring the industry into your class and say, this is what's happened. Let's do a case study. This is what happened. How would you deal with this? Or I can get guest speakers in or me taking them out to industry. And so all those stakeholders that, all your contact books, you really work them hard, but you really give your students kind of exposure to what's really happening in industry.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just do want to highlight there for the listeners, that this transition into motherhood doesn't equate to having to transition out of the tourism industry. Like there are many ways, Birgitta, you're here demonstrating the way that you made it work, but there are many different ways to make your career withstand, motherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
fun because you really one day I even took my son. They were so desperate for a tour guide, and I remember I was on a tour, a French speaking tour with Mauritians, and they had a free day, and they decided to go to a big tourism attraction here in regional Victoria. And I said, no, I can't. I haven't got my au pair. I have got a son. And they said, no, bring him along. So I got the approval from the tour operator to take my son to a tourism attraction. They loved him, which was
Oh,
really big.
yeah. How old would your son have been?
He would have been about 6 or 7, and he had like white hair. So they just loved the real, difference. And he spoke French, of course. And
Yeah.
so that was, so yeah, that's the only time I did that. But no, it's definitely easy to marry kind of motherhood with,
Mm,
I mean, I had 2 jobs and I really liked that. That's where I started noticing I love bringing in industry into my classroom.
mhm,
I really
mhm.
like that kind of hand on the pulse, what's happening, not teach about something that's antiquated.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
really, really loved that.
so that's so important. Okay, so what happens? So you're tour guiding and teaching,
Yep.
and, what happens from here?
Then in the meantime, I did a advanced diploma of events because one of the things that I've noticed is when you work in tourism, under the big tourism umbrella, as an interpreter, I often would go as much into the event space and then back into the tourism space. So if I was on a technical tour or a conference, I was actually in events. But then when those people would have a pre or a post tour with their partner and say, hey, we want to go there or there, then I was in tourism. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about events. So then I did my advanced diploma of events. And then I thought, I'm just going to do my master's now. So then I kept on studying a little bit more, and I did in tour guiding. Um,
Wow.
and I really wanted to have a look at, the identity of tour guides in Australia. And so I did something on the social identity of tour guides and looking at their cognitive, which is their challenges and their expectations. And then I also looked at the emotional, their sense of belonging in the industry and how this, because I always feel that tour guides are somehow seen as the underdog. Yeah, it's a job you start off with, but it's not serious. But for me, it's been a really good career in terms of it's given me incredible access to people and places and knowledge that is, it's on par with any other teaching job I've done. And so I
Mm.
think I really wanted to dispel a bit of that
What
notion
did you
that
find, Birgitta? How do they identify in the industry?
um, yeah, so they really love their sense of belonging is really, really strong if you're like a tour guide who belongs. So I did it on a professional association called, it was now called TGA, Tour Guides Australia. And their sense of belonging is really, really strong in terms of, belonging because they all have the same innate sense that they want to learn and be the ambassador to their city. And it makes them really proud. But also the sense of belonging that maybe they were a bit of the underdog within the tourism industry, and people really didn't. It was always a bit of an afterthought. Oh, let's book the coach, let's book the hotel, let's book the airlines. Oh yeah, hang on, we've forgotten about the tour guides, and it was always the last minute. And so they did sense that, but just the fact that they had a membership and they really had the same interests made them overcome those ongoing expectations that one day it's going to get better. And then, and the challenges are still there. There's definitely innate challenges within the industry. And so I would be teaching that in class as well and saying, okay, here's the challenges. How do we deal with them?
Ah, can you talk to me a little bit for a minute about the challenges for tour guides?
Sure. So, I mean, it's come since then, it's come some way, but like one of the challenges are the hours that you may have to work. And again, you can decide not to work those hours. You can decide that you want to be a site guide working for a tourism attraction, or you want to be a technical guide like me. And, when I was a technical guide, I would go out for dinner, but after working, but it wouldn't be long, long hours, like 16-hour days. It definitely wouldn't be like that. So the hours are often seen as a challenge. The other thing was there's still a very grey area where tour guides fall in terms of paying superannuation because you fall under the hospitality banner, yet there's still tour operators who don't really pay superannuation in 2026. So that was something that they identified then. There was things like guides having to get on top of technology, and they found like running digital tours would be quite complex, and they didn't feel like they were up to date with that.
Mm,
Then there was the challenge of how to deal with the different stakeholders within the tourism industry itself,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
how can they get a bit of a better, better position within
yeah.
our recognized position. So these were
Mm,
like the big challenges they had, but that overall, that sense of belonging was a really positive one. So people love it.
okay.
People love being an ambassador to their city and, feel great and just they live off that positive feedback that they get from their clientele.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, oh, wow, how interesting that those are still challenges, in
Yeah.
this day and age. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
That
it's definitely like there's enough of your speakers who dispel that notion that it's not a long-term career or um there is so much scope. And I mean, I'm very one-sided when I say for people who are multilingual, but there is all, even have another language. There's so much scope in tourism to weave your way through the industry and work in, as I said, events, tourism back in events. It works perfectly. And for me, education. So really, I
mm,
work across a couple of disciplines, and it works perfectly for me.
mm. What do you think then what can we do as an industry to help, the PR problem that tour guiding careers have and, raise the awareness that it is more than just a summer job or, something to do when you finish school because you don't know what you wanna do?
Well, I think what you are doing is excellent because it really shows like all the different people of all, you know, the whole across the whole industry having made a beautiful career out of it and really being passionate about it. And I think if you tap into the people and yeah, generally, all the people I meet in tourism are really passionate about it. But it is definitely a worldwide problem. I went to a conference, educational conference, where people were talking about tourism as well, and the declining numbers of students wanting to tap into it. It is across the world. So it's people not, for some reason, not either thinking that higher education doesn't give them a degree in tourism. So it's got this funny notion that they have to have a degree in somewhere else, or they think that the challenges, but there's equally other challenges in other industries. And honestly, advertising to me was more of a challenge than tourism. So I think we need to get past those challenges and say, like, maybe compare it to other ones, to other disciplines, and ask people, give your perspective of another one, of another challenging industry. Why did you go in, like me? Why did you go
Yeah.
back to tour guiding?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I have a bit of a theory that, well, tour guides in particular, I have a soft spot for in this theory, in that, with the rise of AI and digital technology, and we're lonelier than ever. The research shows that tourists or travelers want to find connection to
Hmm.
place and people when they travel. No, I know that we can put headphones on our ears or get ChatGPT to talk to us while we're walking around a new city or a new country and deliver information, but that's not what people are looking for. They're looking for the connection to place and people, and um, so I feel like tourism overall, but particularly tour guides, are sort of a little bit AI proof in terms of a career. So this is a theory that I'm working on and collecting data on. But I don't understand why young people or young people's parents in this day and age don't view the tourism industry as a real option for a lifelong career, given the uncertainty that many industries have at the moment with the rise of AI. That was a little ramble, but have you got anything to say about that? Agree, disagree?
Yeah, so
None of the above?
I agree with that notion that people view it that way, how you described
Mm,
it. But I also feel that maybe AI will do our industry a favor and really will show that this is a little bit more um, AI proof. Because if I think about the travelers that I work with, we have an aging population around the world. The disposable income often sits in, 40 years plus. So you don't tend to, well, I did never tend to work with people who are younger than that age group, who may go to AI because that's what they used to. So there's still a very large aging population traveling around who are happy to, they've worked really hard their whole life. They want to have that, one-on-one conversation with a local. So it may, in a way, maybe do as a service, that AI, but there will always be a place for AI
hmm
tours. And that's always, if you do a free tour, if you were to do a free tour and you just, whatever, download an app or do it that way, awesome. That serves those people. But I think the aging population, and all my experience and that of my colleagues, is that people love that,
Mm,
that really, that have that chat, that emotional connection to people.
mm. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I was at Monarto Zoo in South Australia with my son on the 1st of January this year, because we wanted to start the year with the animals. And you go on the coach and you sort of can hop on and hop off around the safari park. So you have a guide that welcomes you onto the bus and seats you and then speaks about the animals that you're driving past until you jump off at the next spot. And for one of those legs, going through the cheetahs, there was no guide, and it was just recorded. You'd go through the gate and the recording would kick off and tell you about the cheetahs. Um, and I've got to tell you, it was that experience and just having that one little leg with the cheetahs and listening to a recording. I can't tell you anything about cheetahs, zero. I can tell you all about the rhinos and how last year there was two rhinos and now there's one rhino, and the guide that had their own personal experiences because they'd been guiding at Monarto for 5 years, so they'd seen the animals over the years. Yeah, I can't tell you a single thing about a cheetah. I don't know what species of cheetah they were or how old they were. If you'd asked me before I'd got on the coach that morning, I would have said, I don't really care if it's a human or not, just whatever. I'm here for the animals. But being able to instill that their own personal experiences into the commentary, and also the welcoming face and smile of a tour guide to find you a seat on the bus. Really highlighted to me the stark difference between digital tour guides, I guess, if for lack of a better word, and the real deal human tour guide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was amazing.
And you're right, it's being able to connect the visitors to the place by answering their questions that you have that
Yeah.
ability that I mean, technology is great. I've used technology as a tour guide where they have their headsets. They can stand 50 meters away from me. They can hear me. Technology is definitely helping our job in terms of, aging population often has hearing problems, etc. We are a noisy city, or there's a lot of noisy cities in Australia with the trams going past. That technology is definitely
Mm.
helping us as well. But AI, is not being able to do tapping into what the visitor wants to hear from us and tapping into something that our experience has shown us. So very
Yeah, and it's really interesting. It made me think back to when I used to tour guide on the Auckland Harbour Bridge, and I'd spend an hour and a half to 2 hours out on the bridge with anywhere from 2 to 20 people at a time. Um, I mean, depending on the group, you kind of have to read the room as a tour guide. Sometimes it was just all about the bridge and the technical aspects and the history and whatever. Times we didn't even talk about the bridge. So sometimes the whole commentary went out the window because the visitors wanted to know what it was like living in New Zealand, or how much I pay for rent every week. AI and digital tools can't provide that fluidity and flexibility.
That's exactly. I used to have a problem with. Well, I used to have my own problem thinking, oh, this group doesn't want to hear anything about history. So I would have certain cultural groups that go, Birgitta, don't worry about talking to us about the history. We're not really that interested in that. We just want to go shopping, because they come from big island groups where, I had a group from somewhere French Polynesia, and their island fitted 34 times in a national park. And so the only thing these people wanted to do is go and see shops and they hadn't been in an elevator ever in their life before. So to these people, listening to history is actually not that important. So you need to be able to adapt. And I felt guilty thinking, oh my God, I have all this knowledge. But, once you tap into it, it's their experience. That's really what we're
Mhm.
there for. We're trying to
Mhm.
service them to the best of our abilities to give them the best experience.
Mhm.
Just go shopping if that's what they want to do. So,
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Now, sorry, I completely derailed the conversation there with lines of questioning, but it's very, very interesting. And anyway, I'm not going to derail again. So I kind of want to get to where you are today because you're in a very interesting position now.
Yeah. So,
So yeah,
mhm.
go.
So I transitioned to higher ed. And so I'm teaching a Bachelor of Tourism and Hospitality Management. So kind of the same like TAFE, just a little bit more academic, but I'm still, till very, very recently, I was still working in industry, being part of advisory groups, going out with like Tour Guides Australia to roundtable meetings but so now I pretty much focus on my teaching in tourism. So we train a whole lot of people to work they could be working in hotels, or they could be working in visitor information centers, or they could be working for DMOs. Um, for example, writing policy, or they could be working for a council, like a Fitzroy Council that has like an economic support unit, which is tourism. So they could be working for a whole range of things. So that's what I'm teaching, because I've just a year and a half ago, I started my PhD now. So,
Mm. All right. Talk to me about your
but
PhD.
um, I am looking at trying to bridge the disconnect between the Victorian tourism TAFE courses and Indigenous communities in terms of what knowledge we learn at TAFE colleges in terms of what is accurate and community approved knowledge that our students can then go into visitor facing roles in the industry and share with our visitors ethically. So I think there's a bit of a disconnect there. Uh, and so I'm really passionate about um, this unique culture that we have in Australia. But I'm
Mm.
also looking at, yeah, I'm also looking at where education can do better. So I'm not
Wow, that's so.
the Indigenous communities as being at fault at all. I'm looking at how can we do better in Victorian TAFEs. Very different to any other state because they have a small population of Indigenous people. But yeah, so I'm
Mm.
just focusing on that.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very interesting. How much longer do you have left of your PhD?
How long is a rope? Piece of rope?
Yeah.
Oh wow, a couple of years definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's yeah, very, very interesting. I look
Mm.
forward to seeing what you uncover. Um, can I just ask then, in your teaching role, what are you seeing then? I guess, with students coming through, who's landing in your classrooms, and why are they landing there?
I would say most university courses have a high incidence of internationals. So I have very high numbers of, in tourism, especially, I have very high numbers of internationals. If I teach in event management, which I sometimes do as well, we have a lot more locals. So it's really interesting how tourism attracts internationals. So lots of Asian countries, Mauritius, Sri Lanka. Sometimes we do exchange with European universities as well, and so we'll have a couple of exchange students. So, yeah, a bit of a mixture of. Mm.
Birgitta, why do they come to Australia to study tourism?
I think it's just we obviously do a very good job in advertising. Our level of education and our hopefully the caliber of staff that we have, like
Mm,
people who are
right.
really on the ground, who can work on the ground and then share that knowledge. So I think where I work, we're all really hands on. We all have oodles of industry experience, and we
Mm,
can really share our passion for the industry and our knowledge. And so we could tap into all our industry contacts and we can take them out to industry and
mm,
I think we understand, we don't hide from the challenges in the industry. We really try and give
mm,
them case studies for tomorrow and, in the future, how we're going to address a certain role in the future as well. So we're all passionate about it to try and teach to that kind of standard and we all
mm.
get really well. And I think hopefully that creates like a bit of word of mouth within the country where they
Yeah,
come from.
okay. Right.
And, obviously the advertising tools are working well
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
yeah, but I think Australia, yeah, we shouldn't be the underdog for education. We do quite well, I think, and, we have good standards and,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the
Mm.
reason.
And I'll just ask one final question. Do they walk into the classroom knowing that they've got a lifelong career ahead of them? Or, do they have they got an idea of what they want to do? This might be a tricky question to answer, but what's the
Yeah.
general sort of.
I think, look, a lot of people who are 18 years old, they actually have a pretty good idea in mind in saying that. So some will come from, let's say, Vietnamese family of restaurateurs, and they know they want to follow in their footsteps. That kind of path is already decided by their parents, and they're happy to follow that. There's other people who tend to think they want to go into culinary or hospitality, in hospitality or, for example, in hotel management. And after you go, no, I don't think I like this, but I'm going to trial it another one through I'm going to try another discipline through an elective and then go, yes, this is what I should be doing. So students are really savvy, I think. There's I don't feel there's a lot of dropouts. I feel, yes, there's some movement, and that's very fair, because if I would have been put in that hotel management thing, I would have done the same. I would have gone, "No, that's not for me." Um, no, they're very cluey. I think students are quite cluey.
Mm, okay, great. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to touch on before we wrap the conversation up?
No, I just think it's just an amazing career that can lead to a lot of unexpected angles of the industry that you may not necessarily think of. And so don't pigeonhole yourself and saying, "Oh, I'm studying tourism, therefore I'm only going to work in tourism." You could go into hospitality, and if you get a job into hotels, you just go and do one of those software courses, or they will train you. I think there's a lot of goodwill in the industry for people with a little bit of experience within the broader industry to get them there, um, to perform that job, to the max. But no, look, it's a great industry. I think we are fortunate to have this industry. Um, and yeah, I look forward to training a lot of other people.
Well, Birgitta, I'm going to make an educated call here and say that your students would be very lucky to have you as their teacher. You obviously bring such a wealth of experience and knowledge, and relevant and current knowledge. So, lucky students.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank my
All right.
passion is definitely bringing the international angle. I forgot to say, like, I taught in
Mm,
Timor, Leste as well, and that was really good with the World Bank on and off, like, for 2 years,
wow.
and then made me realize our absolute privilege to have access to education without even thinking about it. So every now and then,
Mm,
when a class looks a little bit bored, I might bring it up and say, "Do you realize how lucky you are? You have a laptop. We have constant electricity. We have everything. Like, don't take it for granted, because it's not everyone's." And I think Asian people really understand that. But
mm,
sometimes, Australians kind of forget that privilege a little
mm,
bit.
mhm.
Then I taught in Saudi as well, which was really interesting for a whole other lot of reasons. But uh, I truly loved work in Neom as well. So yeah, I always try and bring a bit of that cultural diversity in all my classes as well.
And I guess, that's a very real and critical part of our industry. The reality is people, working in the tourism industry, you're not constrained by borders. We can move. And as, so many of my guests, I don't think I've spoken to any guest so far that's only ever lived or worked in one country. So the cultural elements and the cultural awareness, is very significant, and how lucky we are to be able to
Exactly,
have the
exactly,
opportunity. Yeah. All
exactly.
right. Well, thank you so much for I feel like I skipped half of your career, but with my sideways questioning. But
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. You've just got so much knowledge, and that was such a lovely conversation. And I'll be sure to um, pop your LinkedIn profile into the show notes if you're willing. If anyone would like to connect with you or reach out to you. Um,
Thanks,
Thank you
thanks,
so
Carmen.
much. Yeah. You
Yeah,
have a fantastic Wednesday.
thank you, and
All right.
yeah, look forward to hearing it online.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thanks, Carmen.
All
Have a
right.
great
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.